Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for coming tonight. My name's Karen Stern. I work at the reference desk in the library and I organize adult programming here at the BB. And we're really happy to have this program here tonight brought to us by Sustainable Wakefield and WMGLD and Sunbug Solar and solar coaches and all those people. We at the library are actually in the middle of a sustainability series. You'll see pamphlets that look like this at the back. You're more than welcome to pick them up on the way out, and gives you a little idea of some of the programming that's coming up for the rest of the year on the topic of sustainability. We're really glad to have this one as part of that series. I'm going to turn it over to Julie Smith Galvin, who is going to introduce our crew here at the front. Thank you so much for coming out tonight.
Thank you, Karen, and thank the BB for doing this whole sustainability series. Before I get into tonight's panel, I just wanted to thank the library and also thank WCAT. When we realized about a week ago that we were going to have a very full house today, they took my plea and just agreed to come out and video and audio tape this so that those who cannot make it today can come or can listen to it. So this program is put together by Sustainable Wakefield. We're a grassroots organization in Wakefield, started in the end of 2017 around the plastic bag debate that was going on at town meeting. Myself, Julie Smith Galvin, Bob Votley, and his daughter Jasmine ran into each other at some of those meetings and decided that we really wanted to start something in town. And it has grown to a little over 100 people, some regular meetings. There's some people here, Carol, so others, anybody who's involved in Sustainable Wakefield, you can just raise your hand. Maybe people might want to ask some questions. There is a sign-up sheet in the back if you'd like just to leave your emails. We do periodic emails and events and postings as well. So today we're here to talk about solar energy in Wakefield, and there are no better people to do so than those gentlemen you see here up front. We have the Wakefield Municipal Gas and Light Department, so of course you can't do anything in Wakefield electricity-wise without WMGLD, and we're very grateful for them and the programs that they're putting together. Peter Dion is the general manager there, the leader of WMGLD, and then David Polson is the engineering and operations manager. He's been there about 4 years and has 30 years of utility experience. We're going to let them speak first. I'm going to go through everybody's bios and then let everyone speak. I think the best approach may be to hold questions, unless you have something really, really burning, to hold questions until all three have spoken, and then really we can have anybody answer the questions that's appropriate. After we hear from the light department, we are going to hear from Chris Miller. He's with Sunbug Solar. Sunbug Solar is a very well-known solar installer here in Massachusetts. He has done installations right here in Wakefield. He left the aviation industry about a decade ago to join the energy field, realizing the importance of electricity and energy to our future. He worked at the Mass Save program, a very well-known efficiency program here in the state. And he came across Sunbug and has been designing solar systems with them for about 4 years. And then finally, Tom Betcher is a member of Sustainable Wakefield and a resident of Wakefield. He installed solar on his home in 2017. He's lived here in Wakefield for about 10 years with his wife, Jennifer, and their daughters, Cassie and Sydney. He's going to talk a lot about what it took to install solar and how he manages it. He, by day, is a senior systems engineer with Dell EMC. In his spare time, he enjoys do-it-yourself home products and utilizing technology to provide insights into energy usage, and I believe he will give you a little glimpse into that today as well. He's here for a better future for his girls, and I think we're all here because we want a better future for the next generation. So I'm going to leave it to them to tell us the details of that. Thank you.
As Julie said, my name is Pete Dine. I'm the general manager of the Gas and Light Department. I've been in Wakefield now for 12 years, and I think we've done a lot of great things in a lot of fronts, and I'm really proud of the work we've done taking a leadership role in what's happening in the state from the municipal perspective as far as renewables go. We are a founding member of Berkshire Wind, which is on Brody Mountain out in the Berkshires. It's currently a 15 megawatt wind project. When it started, it was the largest in the state. It's since been out passed by a couple other projects, but we're about to have complete Berkshire 2, which is an additional 5 megawatt project, which is will come online in the late spring. Again, we took a lead role in that, and we're very proud of our role as leaders in the industry in terms of what's happening on the wind side. We're also owners of Hancock, we own a portion of Hancock Wind, which is another wind project up in Maine. In addition, about 11.2% of our power supply comes from hydro. So all in all, we have a commitment to renewable energy. Here in Wakefield, what's happened over the past several years is a significant increase in the amount of solar that we have, both in town and through available projects outside of town. Specifically within Wakefield, if you look back to January of 15, we had 7 rooftop installations. Over the past 3 years, that's ballooned to 32 residential rooftop installations and 2 garage top installations over on Audubon Road. Those projects were supported both technically and operationally by the work that we've done at the light department, especially on the commercial side. Those 2 are large 1 megawatt projects on the roofs of the 2 of the garages over at Edgewater, and that took a great deal of coordination, interaction with the owner of the property, and it turned out to be a great result for them and for us. So the increase over the short 3.5-year span was about 27 projects, including the 2 major commercial ones. As you can see, it translated to an output increase. Year to date through January of 15, we had 139,000 kilowatt hours generated. By the end of December, we had almost 3 million kilowatt hours. The one thing that's important to remember is the projects are designed to serve the load of the structure. So we're not really aiming to have them exceed the size of your load. The whole idea is to save money on your load and reduce your energy consumption. So there's not a ton that flows back to us. However, we do buy back the electricity on non-coincident times when you're not using the electricity within your facility or your house. We do buy it back, and there's been about 3,700 kilowatt hours of energy that we've bought back at market price, and that's full retail price of the cost of energy, not the distribution portion of your bill. So we've been paying between 9 and 11 cents for that electricity for whatever you generate and give back to us. Again, most times, if you look at the average solar installation, that occurs somewhere between 11 and 1 or 2, as people are out of their house working, not using a lot of load within their house, and their solar installation is generating maybe at its peak. You might be shipping some back to us, and so we pay whatever that. If you look at your electric bill, the cost of energy, as of right now, that's what we pay for that. The current program right now is we do it through our net metering rate. I will tell you that there's about to be, and we were hoping to be able to discuss it last night. Unfortunately, we've been told that we cannot discuss it tonight specifically. We will be releasing very, very soon a new Wakefield Solar Incentive Program. Again, unfortunately, we're not being allowed to speak about it tonight, but we will very soon. So, as Julie said, please make sure your email is on that, because for the people that were here tonight, we will send you a package directly as soon as we're able to release that. So make sure you sign the sheet on your way out with your email address, and we'll make sure everybody gets copies of a frequently asked questions brochure, information about the program, links to the applications, all that. So it's coming very soon. As of right now, as we talk about the net metering, so the net metering pertains to how we interconnect with you. So every solar installation, both currently and any kind of new program, requires a 2-register meter, one that's going to measure what you use from us on a given day, and one that measures what you sell back to us. And so the The meter that we would install in your house is a 2-register meter, so it's bidirectional. Right now, our current size limit is 10 kW. That may be going up in the new program. The current the thing we want to talk about right now is making sure that you're talking to us early in the process. Our chief engineer and our engineering and operations manager, Dave, reach out to MLD right away. Vinny McMahon is our senior electrical engineer right now. So if you are considering a solar project, and as the program becomes available very soon, reach out to us right away in terms of sizing for your facility. Also, we need to make sure that we don't need to do anything different from a system perspective while we're talking about this. So the sooner you don't want to get so far down a path and then realize that there's a problem, there's an issue, and so looping us into the process as soon as possible is critical. The incentive program will help offset some of the costs. There's multiple aspects to the financial aspects of a solar program. There's obviously the federal tax incentives, the state tax incentives, and some kind of incentive from the utility. That will all be outlined hopefully very soon. But that's the design of a program that we're going to be rolling out. So there will be, unlike the new SMART program from the IOUs, which is based on a rate, the municipal electric departments will be rolling out a program which will be paying on a $1 per watt basis, and it will be paid once you complete your installation. So it's different from if you have friends that live in National Grid or Eversource territories, the new program that's available to them is the SMART program, and it's a rate-based program. What we will have in Wakefield and other municipals will be an upfront. Once you've installed it, you'll get a percentage rebate based on the number of watts that you install. Again, some of this outlines how it exists today. Some of the important elements of it, you're still going to obviously need a wiring permit and inspection, and working closely with our town departments. So again, a lot of the information that's here is still critically important even after we change the program, and most of this will still apply to what we have going forward. Just a technical outline, the solar panel to the inverters. We require in Wakefield, and most others require, a production meter on the output of your solar system. That's one. And then the second, dual register meter. So it is a technical requirement that we have, that there is a meter on the output of your solar system, regardless. And so that has to be wired in. Most installers understand how to do that and what's needed to be done. We require that to make sure that we have the ability to check in both directions, as well as the output of your system. And then the utility grade meter that is shown on the drawing, it's bidirectional. So most solar customers still use electricity from the grid. Obviously, solar installations are whatever percentage efficient, 19, 20, whatever percentage you talk about. So you still need to be a customer of Wakefield Gas and Light, and so that you're using electricity from us at different times at different days. So it's important that this is just kind of an overview of how the system works. And then this is just a sample of the bill. It shows, top one. So as your electric charges, and then where do we show? Yeah. So this is a typical solar customer, and they get a solar energy credit based on what's generated back to us at the current rate of our cost of electricity, our energy charge. So that in this particular case, the customer generated back 643 kilowatt hours at 12 cents for that particular month. Now again, our energy charge can vary by month based on our cost of electricity. We usually try to set it for the season as best we can, and short of extremes taking over, we're usually able to hold our energy charge constant for a season. So when calculating the payback from the cost of energy perspective in terms of what you'll be saving, if you look at our 10-year average, it's been about 11.5 cents. Some years with extreme cold or extreme heat, it's been a little higher. Some it's been a little bit lower. But if you average about 11.5 cents, that's probably a reasonable number to look at. So.
It doesn't come off the distribution charge?
No, because
Just because we're recording, can you just repeat his question?
he asked if it comes off the distribution charge. What you don't use from us, you are not charged the distribution charge on, but what you're selling back to us, so we don't take the full credit off. You're already not using it, so you're not paying the distribution charge on that. You follow?
No, I don't.
All right.
Like on here, you generated 643, but got charged for 814.
Right. So you used 814 in your house. That was separate from what your solar panel generated. Your solar panel is not shown. What your solar panel generated is not shown on there. Only what's shown is what you generated back to us. So your actual load might have been 1,400.
Yes, okay.
So
I have some examples of that as well with my total load.
Yeah, no, this makes sense.
right. So that you did save on the full distribution on that, say 700 that you didn't use, but we're only paying you back the value of the electricity.
Yep.
So that was just kind of a quick overview. Again, I apologize. I wish we were able to talk more specifically about the program that's about to roll out, other than I gave you the framework of what it's going to look like in terms of it being a dollar per watt incentive type program, as opposed to the current program which has been released by the IOUs.
Peter, you wanted to say what IOUs stand?
Investor-owned utilities. So our neighbors through Eversource or National Grid.
Do you have an estimate of when you'll be able to release the new incentive program?
I thought it was today.
New updated.
I don't have a new updated one, considering it blew up about an hour ago in terms of talking about it.
When we had asked about the program before, they said that if you overgenerated, that part of the charge would be rolled over to your gas bill as opposed to.
It's a credit on your total bill. So yeah.
Can you just repeat what you asked?
So she asked, would it be credited towards your gas bill if you overproduce? And it's credited to your total bill. So if your electric bill was so low and you did generate back more than, but again, we're trying to size these units so that you're almost a net zero most of the time. The amount that's generated back should be somewhat incidental.
Is there a reason why you aim for net zero rather than trying to?
Because we would have to upgrade. If we allowed everybody to put as much as they wanted, we'd have to upgrade our electric system for one. Because you would all become independent power producers, and we'd have to pay the going market rate for that rather than the rate we're paying. And the going market rate, I could invest in a solar program right now at about 4 or 5 cents. So we're paying more than twice that. So.
If you're planning to increase your electricity use, let's say you're planning on buying an electric car in the near future, could you get a system that would produce more electricity to?
Not planning, but if you have demonstrated load. Tom will talk a little bit about that. Tom's a perfect example of somebody who's done that. So.
Just what her question was.
Her question was if you're planning to add load, and we can't allow that to be, it would be based on your existing load today, because what happens if it doesn't happen in 2 years or 3 years? So, but if you do buy an electric vehicle and it does add demonstrated load, then you would be allowed to add additional solar panels if you chose to.
Right, so maybe we'll hold the rest of the questions
Yeah.
until after. Thank you.
All right, so my name's Chris Miller. I'm coming from Sunbug Solar. We're a local installer based in Arlington. We installed Tom's system as well. Let me just get this up and running. So I'm kind of here to talk to you a little bit about the dollars and cents and the new program coming out that we don't know the official name or the values of it yet, but I'll kind of just break down some of the incentives, and then my goal is to hopefully help you explore if solar is going to be right for you or not. I left a sign-up sheet in the back there, so if you wanted to leave your address, your phone number, we can. It's a no-cost assessment, and we can find out if solar is right for you once we get the official program launch and the information. But a little bit about Sunbug. We're Massachusetts owned and operated. We're founded in 2009, coming up on 10 years now. We have an office in Arlington that I work out of, also one in Western Mass in Westfield. 65 employees, 16 employee owners, including myself. We've done over 1,700 installs in Massachusetts. That's over 20 megawatts. That's about 60,000 panels. We're the only Massachusetts installer to receive the Angie's List Super Service Award for 7 years in a row. So there's a little bit of overlap, run through it quickly, but the investor-owned utilities, Eversource and National Grid, just launched their new SMART program back in November of 2018. And this kind of left a hole in municipalities because it's only for Eversource and National Grid. So they've been working with the DER to try and get this program to fill in the gaps, and we should be getting that official information and the values of that soon. I've heard rumors it can be up to a certain amount on a per watt basis. There's going to be some restrictions probably that we'll find out. Usually they want panels to face south, obviously. That's the best direction. So there'll be some restrictions that will come out in the language of that. There's also going to be a cap because there's only going to be so much that they can help with as well too. But let's talk a hypothetical so you can put some numbers to what solar can actually do for you. So the average residential system, residential household in Massachusetts uses about 7,200 kilowatt hours a year. On a well-situated roof, a 6 kilowatt system could cover about 90 to 100% of that use. So let's say we started with an entry-level panel. Gross price could be somewhere around about $20,000. With the rebate, once we get that information, that could be upwards of $7,000. So this could be a very lucrative rebate for residents of Wakefield. As mentioned before, there's a federal 30% tax credit. So that can be worth about $3,700 in this case. And there's also a state tax credit that you're eligible for of $1,000. So that brings that down to a net investment value of about a little bit less than $8,000. What are some of the environmental aspects of that? I could save up to 112 metric tons of CO2 over the lifetime. That's the equivalent of about 122,000 pounds of coal being burned. A lot of panels these days come with 25-year warranties. Inverters as well have about 15-year lifespans, but they can be extended warranties available for a lot of inverters. So these systems are highly reliable. In this case, a payback could be as low as 6 years with an internal rate of return above 20%. Compare that to stock market rates. It's really a no-brainer for investment. What Sunbug typically does is when we come out to a customer, we simply break down the numbers. So this is the hypothetical return on investment for a 6 kilowatt system for an ideally situated roof. Obviously, everybody's different. That's part of the site eval process is we visit somebody's house, take measurements, take shade readings, and then we present the return on investment numbers to a customer. So how do you find out if your home or business qualifies? What you can do is you can schedule a free site eval. Like I said, I left a sign-up sheet in the back. How we approach it, again, there's no commitment, there's no signature required, there's no cost for an assessment. We come out, measure the roof, figure out what a system will produce, design the perfect system with the right panels based on your current electrical use, and then hopefully we can get you to go solar. So we do have, again, fairly quick on my end. We'll save some questions for the end, but we've done a significant amount of installs in Wakefield. We know a lot of their technical requirements. We work with them, and so we're a turnkey service that takes care of permits, takes care of interconnection, and we're aware of the technical requirements. So that's kind of it for my presentation. Thomas was going to go into his experience with solar so far, and then hopefully, if you got questions, I'm happy to answer them for you.
So hi everyone, I'm Tom Betcher, Wakefield resident, as Julie had so kindly introduced. I've been here about 10 years, my wife and I. And so I got into solar around, been making my house more energy efficient, and solar was kind of the next step in my evolution of making my house more efficient and, going more green. So some of the reasons why my family installed solar was to reduce our fossil fuel consumption, increase the mix of renewable energy in our household personal use, uh, reduce our energy bills, return on investment, as Chris pointed out, and then just our impact on the environment. I have 2 little girls. I want to leave a better world for them, uh, and then just like I said, smart investment over time. So kind of our journey to solar. So first, I'm a tech geek, so I did a lot of research around solar panels on myself. I've got some resources up here that you can go take a look at. Even before contacting a solar install, I recommend you can just go to Google Sunroof. They use Google Satellite View, and they'll actually have a picture of your house, and they'll shade your roof color-coded on how well your site is for solar. You don't have to fill out any information other than just your address. I don't recommend submitting in because you'll start to get phone calls from a lot of solar installers. So just put your address in and then look at your site and kind of see how it shows up. I talked to other people around their experiences. I have some friends that installed solar before I did and just kind of got their experience. So in that vein, I do that now today. I'm happy to be announced as Sustainable Wakefield's first solar coach. So you feel free to email. I will answer any of your questions. I'm happy to give a tour of my site and go through any potential questions that you have around that. From there, I then contacted solar installers, a couple recommended by friends, and then some that I found on my own. Ended up settling on Sunbug based on recommendations and then just my experience with them. Actually, Chris was my first contact with Sunbug. He came out, did our site eval. Truly, they were a no-pressure company. They came out, gave me my numbers, and said, if you have any questions, reach out. If you want to go forward, reach out. And that was about it. So we decided to move forward with them. And then we finalized the contract with them. So this is my installation on the top of my house. My system is plated at 6.9 kilowatt hours. In 2013, I also installed solar hot water. So those are those circled panels there. That handles my domestic hot water as well. And that's just kind of a simple system that preheats the water, then that feeds into my hot water system there. That does about 80% of my year-over-year hot water as well. This was my proposal from Sunbug. I know it's a little bit hard. I break out the numbers later. So there was a couple of discussions earlier around metering versus net metering, bidirectional. Wakefield does bidirectional. So if you have friends that have solar in an IOU, they'll probably talk about net metering. Essentially, net metering is your meter will run backwards as you push power back out in the grid. As Peter had said, Wakefield does a bidirectional where essentially that meter is 2 meters, which registers what you sell back and what you purchase from the grid. So just some examples where your friends may be like, I actually got a total credit on my bill for so many kilowatts that I push back under net metering versus bidirectional. Whereas Peter was showing that, the credit back where in this example, 250 kilowatt hours was pushed back at that, 11.5 cents. And then, basically you would have a statement of $19 from them. So this is kind of, I actually have a device installed in my electrical panel that gives me real-time usage around both my total house consumption load and my solar production. So I pulled out some couple of interesting things here. You can see that bottom, the solar eclipse that happened in, I think it was 2018. So you can kind of see the solar eclipse come and my solar dip down just like everyone else's. So it's just kind of an interesting thing to point out. So what's interesting here is everything in red is what I purchased from the grid. So that's where I'm being charged from the grid, both the distribution charge and the energy generation charge, and that's what I'm buying from the grid. Everything in orange is my house load that was satisfied by my solar panels, and everything in yellow is everything that I sold back to the grid, and that comes back to me as a credit on my statement. This is my billing from the utility. I put up two statements here to kind of just show. So September reflects everything that happened in August. August is generally a peak time for solar production. And then December is kind of a lower time to just kind of give you an example of what your bill might look like. And so here, Peter had pointed out my solar energy credit here. I sold back 597 for, what is that, $58 and some change. At that time, it was 9 cents, almost 10 cents for that. I can't see that over there. The December was changed. But as Peter alluded, that charge does change. I see that, 9 cents, 10 cents, 11 cents, depending on the season. And there's a lot of factors that go into what we're buying power at wholesale goes into how our energy rates are determined by the utility. So your inverter takes your solar panels, produce power in DC. Your inverter changes that power to AC. That's what your house consumes. That what is pushed back to the grid, and that's what you consume from the grid. So every solar installation will have an inverter. Your inverter will have similar functionality to kind of give you all sorts of reports around your production. So this is a report for the month, broken down by the day. This is actually this past December. You can kind of see there's some really cloudy days. Generally, the days that are really low here, snow is coming down on that day. And then this is kind of year over year. So the red is 2017, the blue is 2018, and green is 2019. And you can see, obviously, during the summer months, solar is much more productive, better sun angle, longer time that the sun is out. So generally, for 3 months out of the year, I'll get about 1 megawatt out of my solar panels. So one of the paybacks and ROIs for myself was a system called SREC2. That system actually closed on 11/28, and that's where the IOUs replaced that system with the SMART program. We'll have a new program that will be TBD, but essentially an SREC is for every 1 megawatt that I produce, I get a SREC. Think of that as a stock. That stock then sells out on the market. It has a floor and a ceiling. Depending on whatever it's being bought at is my sale price. So these are just kind of my SREC numbers that I've had over the past 20 months or so. So this is probably why you're all here, is to kind of see savings to date. So Sunbug gives you a 20-year ROI. So based on their site measurements, so my system does about 84% efficient based on my angle of my roof. So they estimated my first year that my solar, and this accounts for what I sold back and what my house consumes, I would be, about $1,000, just over $1,000, generate about $1,300 in SRECs for a 1-year ROI of $2,300. So my actual numbers, so from March to March, my 1-year ROI showed up to be about $2,200 and some change. So they were pretty on the money with my ROI for my first year. So for my ROI for 20 months, it's just short of $4,000. I have produced 2 SRECs that I have not sold estimate those two will sell out for about $520. So for my ROI for 20 months was just short of $4,500. My system cost after payback or after federal and state tax credits was 19,000, just over that, and that actually includes. I actually put an additional 3 panels on my house after I purchased my electric car. I realized once I purchased the electric car, I had extra capacity in my inverter. Those 3 panels maxed out my inverter for that. So that 19,000 includes that addition. So my year-over-year ROI, we'll call it 2,400. Payback is just short of 8 years. Based on the numbers that I've been running, that probably will run about 7 to 7.5 years. SRECs seem to be going up a little bit right now. And then I just have some site pictures for those, and throw a lot of technical terms out there. Here's an inverter. You've got a shutdown panel. One of the things that actually Chris told me, there are multiple ways to shut down an solar system. I think I have no more than 4 shutoffs for my system. So one of the things with solar, if the utility goes out, so if there's a power outage, your solar system will shut down. It rapidly shuts down. Your house will not be powered up. The exception to that is if you put a battery system like you would put a backup generator. So you can have backup power based on solar, but you do have to have some sort of storage facility put on that. So, here's my...
Just for the reason for that is for the safety of the electrical worker, because again, it's bi-directional. So if you're overproducing, then if we have an outage and you're generating back onto the grid, our people can get hurt. So that's why it's locked out.
Same rules as if you were to have a backup generator. You'd have a transfer switch so that you're not backfeeding into the grid for the lineman's safety. My panel, my solar breakers, then put a Sunbug installing on my roof, and then Peter had alluded to, this is the production meter. That meter is owned by the utility. It shows the total amount of power produced by your solar panel, and then this is the bidirectional meter. So that's your electrical meter will be replaced with that bidirectional meter at the time that your utility or system comes online. I worked with Dave and the utility very early on, as Peter had mentioned. I have nothing but good things to say about the responsiveness of the utility when I ask questions. When my system was installed after it had been wire inspected by the electrical inspector here in town, that actually did not take very long. I believe that they turned my system on 3 days after that. In some of the IOU areas, if you go and talk to your friends, sometimes that can be a couple of months for them to, once your system's up, ready, for them to come out and replace your meter. So I think we have a very good program with the utility and relationship with them in that aspect. That's the end of my presentation. Any questions for anyone?
Yeah. Would that include the hot water?
No. That was strictly my solar electric, my PV panels. Oh, sorry. Yeah, sorry. The question.
Yeah, can you do the question?
Yeah. So the question was, did that 19,000 include my solar hot water? And that did not.
I think what we'll do is maybe take questions and I'll just repeat them back, and then everybody can answer from here. I'm sure you have a lot of questions. So the question is, how much is the hot water that you spoke about?
I don't remember. I want to say pre-tax it was probably about 7,000, and then after tax it also qualified for 30%. I can get that number if you leave your email, and like I said, it was in 2013. So.
Go ahead.
Does that solar water work with on-demand meters?
Yes, actually, that's the best system to put it with. So essentially, you'll have your the solar hot water. You'll have a preheat tank, so a tank that the solar heats, and then that feeds into whatever hot water system that you have today. So having an on-demand system with solar hot water is actually the most efficient way to do that.
And I just wanted to mention that Tom is a solar coach. So Sustainable Wakefield, kind of in getting ready for this new program that's going to be announced, designated Tom a solar coach. And we're looking for other people to be solar coaches as well. So as you go through the process, stay in touch with us, and please do that. I also wanted to mention we don't endorse any specific installer. Chris and Sunbug are definitely excellent, but there are a lot of other ones out there as well. So a question in the back?
Yeah. That's
So the question was, you started with 6.9, then you added 3. And so what was the question?
is the 6 point. Yeah, the
Okay.
correct. It is 6.9 now.
Does anybody here have any experience with people selling their houses after putting on solar panels and have any insight into how that's impacted the value of their home?
So the question is, what is the impact if you go to sell your home after you've installed a solar system? Chris?
Yeah, so there's a nationwide study done by the Berkeley Institute, over 22,000 homes. And the long and short of it was resale value on an owned solar system, which is only Wakefield only permits owned solar systems, is about $3 to $4 per watt. So a 6 kilowatt system, $18,000+. Leased solar systems, which is a different financial model, is where people rent out their roofs, is where you've actually found that it hurts resale because the new prospective buyer, the terms and conditions may not benefit them, so it can potentially drive them away, whereas ownership is just an attached asset to the house.
So there's always the question, what do you do if you need to replace your roof?
So what do you do if you need to replace your roof?
Yeah, so any solar installer, if you wanted to pursue this, is comfortable working on a roof less than 10 years old, because there's no definitive end of life of solar panels. Even though it's industry standard to give electrical savings out to 25 years, panels will go much longer. So the time to replace a roof, say you have a roof that's 15, 20 years old, you don't want to have to replace the shingles while the solar panels are still doing great, because now you're looking at an unexpected labor cost to take the panels off, replace the roof, put the panels back on. So if you have 20, 30 years left in the life of your roof and you put the panels up there, they will actually absorb some of the elements and extend the lifespan of that. So the time to replace your roof is 30, 40 years down the road. Either the technology is that much better, the new homeowner is, they can determine that, or you're just no longer around in the house and it's not up to you to worry about that.
Yes.
So does WMGLD actually dictate the size of the panel, the system they're allowed to put on?
So the question is, does the light department dictate the size of the system?
We'll work with you to determine the max that we'll allow from our side, and the installers are good at sizing them also, but we want to make sure, again, that it's not designed to be a power producer.
Let's give the high seasonal, for example, I've got a pool pump that runs only in the summer.
Yeah, that's factored into sizing
So
it.
seasonality is factored in.
Yeah.
Are there any particular issues around flat roofs?
Are there issues around flat roofs?
Nope, there's multiple different attachment methods, and any installer, including us, will give you a workmanship warranty. So if there was ever a problem with attaching to an EPDM rubber roof or anything like that, that's covered. Rubber is standard practice for solar installers as well too. If you think of big commercial rooftops where you can fit thousands of panels, that's an everyday install.
Ian.
How does the MGLD handle installs on multifamily dwellings?
So the question is multifamily dwellings. How does it get
I-
handled?
Unfortunately, we base it on the house meter right now, because there's no other way to do it. If there's separate bills for each resident, it's hard to figure that out, because each customer is, how do you calculate who's getting the benefit? Right. So typically, do we have any on multifamilies at this point? I don't think we do.
I don't think so.
I will say that I'm working with the Mass Clean Energy Center on looking at multifamily and rental units, and there's going to be some guidance coming out on that. But Peter's right. Really, it's a meter issue in
Right.
the end.
What about the install side of that? If you're putting so they.
From a construction perspective, it's fine. From a billing perspective, that's a whole other thing that it just doesn't seem feasible right now, and we've never personally dealt with it in Wakefield. In other towns, yes, but it just doesn't seem from a billing perspective that it would be easy to accomplish.
Would it be possible to put on a system that had portions of the array dedicated to each unit? So let's make it a multi-unit system on a multi-unit building.
I don't want to comment. It would be.
So the question is, would it be possible to have different, two systems on different parts of the house for two different
Yeah, well,
households?
part of the collectors for unit 1 and part of the collectors dedicated to unit 2.
Right, so really that's a meter.
Potentially.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we'd have to look at the situation.
So really, I think those are the kinds of things, talk to the light department, talk to the installers, talk to Tom, who may be able to kind of brainstorm and make sure you're using the right language when you're having those conversations. And we found that people are very, really want to help. Back here.
When factoring in the size of the system, do you factor in how much gas you're using as well, or is it only electricity?
Electricity.
So the question is, do you factor in gas usage as well as electricity?
Electricity.
Electricity only.
If you're looking at reduce, like I said, for me, the solar hot water system does probably over year averaged out, probably handles about 70% of my hot water. So during the summertime, I get like my therms for like 2 months out of summer is 0, sometimes 1. So very, if you're looking to reduce that. And then depending on your heating system, that same system, if you have something like radiant heat or some baseboard systems, some of those systems can be integrated with your heating system as well, and just talk to your installer around those as well. Yeah.
You get a $5 credit. It's only a total bill.
The nice thing is that the credit goes towards your whole bill.
Right.
Yes.
Which is
Yeah,
gas
I've
as
rolled
well.
and I've rolled. I've actually had a negative month where I've produced enough solar and didn't have any gas bill that credit just rolled to the next month.
It's unique. That's where Wakefield's unique. Sir.
Yeah, I assume they're very durable, these things, and they don't break often, but how often like if the baseball hits from your kids' baseball hits are they durable enough to be able to stand that type of stuff?
So the question is about durability. If they get hit by a baseball, what will happen if they break?
Yeah, so if you look at the testing videos for a lot of panel manufacturers, they'll put them through a strong testing phase, but obviously there's things that are acts of God, hailstorms and everything, which is why we always say, hey, consult with your homeowners as well in case something just out of the norm happened that wouldn't be covered under a normal warranty.
So to follow up on one nice thing about the panels, I've had experienced this, and then when we had the really bad, 2015, a lot of the houses that didn't have ice dam problems were those with solar panels. So even today, my panels were shedding all their snow. So as the temperature came up today, all that snow slid off the panels. So that's that much less snow that's on my roof to melt, refreeze, and potentially cause ice dam problems. So just a side benefit to that. And
Yes.
When you do your evaluation, do you have any feel for the structural implications if you have an unbuilt attic and there's not a lot of support?
So the question is structural implications, like unbuilt out.
So one of the things that we take a look at during a visit is actually documenting the rafters in the attic, and then further on down the line, there's a third-party engineering process. Any install in Massachusetts requires a structural affidavit to pull the building permit. Other states are not so tight on that, but if it was my house, I would want to know if the roof can support the weight or not. So that is part of the process, is documenting the rafters and then determining if it is going to be an issue or not.
Yes.
Is there any type of program for group discounts? I've heard of like some communities where they're like, oh, 15 people sign up for solar, so at least for like materials.
So the question is, are any group or aggregation programs?
They do pop up time to time. Sunbug is not planning on having one anytime soon, specifically for Wakefield. Obviously, we give everybody the best price that we can. But those programs do exist when the demand is there in the town. And that's not to say we wouldn't. It's just we don't have any immediate plans to do that.
I just wanted to speak a little bit more about the electric vehicle because putting solar panels on the roof would actually be a driver to go out and buy an electric vehicle. But you're saying that you have to prove that you're really going to buy one. I don't want to have to do what you did, put 80% of the panels on and then add 20% more when I buy the vehicle.
So the question is considerations of buying an electric vehicle and how to size the panel or the system and when to do that. And so
we have to have
that's
some way to determine what it's going to be. So it's got to be based on demonstrated load. So if you had the vehicle first, then yeah.
And then can you just speak, are you basically powering your vehicle 100% now on your solar?
So one of the ways, so to maximize my ROI based on our billing system, it's a little bit backwards from other folks in IOs. My vehicle is when you do have an electric vehicle, you get to set the time that it charges. So the vehicle's got settings, so when you plug it in. Mine's actually set to prefer during the day when I'm producing. With that said, there's actually, I believe, ChargePoint has actually a level 2 charger that is solar based, so it's aware of when your solar is producing, and it will prefer to charge when you actually have you're generating solar. As far as my vehicle being 100% solar, I can say yes because my panels produce about 90% of all of my household electrical usage. If you look at just what I produce for total kilowatt hours for the whole year and what I consume, my panels produce about 90% of all of my household electrical usage.
Peter, did you want to talk about the electric vehicle program?
But if you look at, depending on how you're going to use your electric vehicle, you got to remember the solar panels are producing between 9 and 5, and if you are at work between 9 and 5, you're actually using off the grid to charge in the overnight. So that's the difference. So we're not true net metering, we're bidirectional metering, and the reason for that is the value of that power when you're generating it to us is about 4, 5, 6 cents, and it might cost more than that at night. So we don't do it that way. We'll pay you our average cost of electricity for the month, but if you are using it off peak, we don't do it like we don't net the meter out that way.
In the back.
Do you change your home insurance to reflect the fact that you've had the panels on the roof?
So the question is, do you change your home insurance to reflect the panels?
I would strongly recommend. I did as well. After my panels went up, I contacted my home insurance and let them know that I installed solar panels. I gave them my contract. Honestly, I don't think I really saw a big increase. I think it was a couple dollars for the year. But I would check with your home insurance, and I would strongly recommend it.
What is the lifetime of a panel and/or the efficiency or decrease in efficiency over time?
So what's the life of a panel and/or the decrease in efficiency over time?
Yeah, so industry standard is to give a 25-year return on investment, but panels will go 40 plus years. They degrade about 0.5% per year, give or take, depending on the manufacturer. And when we put together a person's ROI, we'll account for that as well too. So there's no definitive end of life. There are panels that were installed 40 plus years ago, and they're still going. To put it into easier terms is you're still going to be doing greater than 80% their originally rated value at 25 years. So it's still got plenty of life after that.
Yes, in the back.
How big a footprint on your roof is like a 6.9?
So the question is the footprint on the roof.
So I would say my panels probably take up about 2/3 of my roof if you're looking at just the PV. Probably closer to 80 when you look at my hot water. Obviously, I installed the hot water prior to even thinking about putting solar electric, so that was the best spot that my installer picked. There's 26 panels up on my roof. I believe my roof could have supported 32, I think, when Chris did that. So I could have put a total of footprint-wise 32 panels in totality.
How big is the panel?
About 3 by 5, so figure a 6 kilowatt could be, I don't know, 400 square feet.
How many watts?
Mine are 305, but I know they change every 3 months.
Yeah, so I mean, panels. There's plenty of different manufacturers. Some of the top tier panels now are up around 400 watts, but you'll see an entry level panel anywhere from 300 to some of the top tier are 400.
And mine were the middle tier panels.
On the electric vehicle point, would it be possible to size and maybe make the connections to the roof for a larger system and then not activate it, put in the panels later once in demand, so that you can get your solar system activated, but and then not have a huge following cost to get the rest of it added?
In terms of sizing I'm sure there's something we could look
Can you
at.
just repeat? Can you just repeat what the question?
He was asking, are you able to size the electrical interconnection and the other stuff, right? Basically, other than the panels. Yeah, you could size it. Is that what you were asking?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then you have all the interconnects.
And then you just add the panels later. Yeah.
I think that's what Tom did.
Yeah, I did that as well. And quite frankly, when at least my experience, I think anything that you size based on your year or 2 years average, yes, an electric car is going to add additional draw or load to your system. I think any system sized out probably would cover that car as well. It might be off a little bit.
I also was wondering if there's any incentives for batteries or storage systems.
So are there any incentives for batteries
Not
for
at this
storage
time.
systems?
Not that I'm aware of.
They're hopefully coming.
Does Sunbug have their own favorite electricians and installers, or can you have your own electrician do that?
Everybody with us is in-house. There are larger, like national installers who subcontract, but we maintain electrical ratios, 2 apprentices to 2 electricians, and everybody's in-house. So that's how we personally operate.
If we were to add on a system, so I understand you can scale the wiring, the conduit, and your inverter for a larger system, but not install the actual panels on top. Can you give us kind of like a ballpark estimate? Is the cost to install the additional panels like an equivalent to starting from a brand new system, or is there some scales of economy that you have because you already have some of the stuff set up prior?
So the question is cost savings over as you add on or
What is that cost-
size,
what is
right?
that really the cost
Or the
offset?
true
You
costs.
need a 7 kilowatt system now, and then later when you add a car, you need to add another.
Yeah, so certainly there are economies of scale. As for the specifics of that, I guess that would be judged on an individual basis as to if we could work out something with the technical aspect of it. Correct, there are economies of scale if you could do it ahead of time. I suppose that's kind of a unique scenario that you're bringing up right now, which we could discuss more.
My experience with that, obviously on a per watt, the additional panels were actually slightly more per watt than the initial installation. I did get, I maxed out my inverter. There is, and Chris can speak more to this, your inverter has only so much capacity. And then there's different inverter capacities. So if you're scaling up to the next size inverter, might actually require to put even more panels on than that initial. My suggestion would be to try to get it sized correctly the first time and not have to add on afterwards if you can avoid it.
But there's also efficiencies of it.
Yeah. Yes. So inverters are all rated for certain size, and then
80% of your full capacity, you're not actually as efficient as if you were at 100%. So you have to play that game.
Correct. Yeah. And the Sunbug was actually really good at figuring those numbers out. That's what they do.
Another question?
When you added on the additional solar panels, were any of the initial rebates you got on your initial
system also available for the second solar panels you put on, or is that?
So what was the incentive when you added on? Was it the same?
So yeah, so those got credited. You know, basically we're only eligible for federal and state tax credits. Those went into my tax bill. You know, just added those two numbers up and filed it that way. In terms of the new program, I have no idea on that. And then they just go into my production for SRECs.
Yes. Are there any U.S. made panels?
Yes, a couple different manufacturers, and Sunbug is technology agnostic. So if I ended up helping you out and you had a specific request or manufacturer that you wanted to look into, I could certainly get you pricing on them.
Any other questions? I know that our panelists, I believe, will stick around if you have any one-on-one questions. I just want to thank all of you for coming out. It's really great to see this level of interest in Wakefield. I again want to thank the library, thank my colleagues with Sustainable Wakefield, thank the Wakefield Cable Access Television who are here. I realize that their colleagues are actually having to videotape a town meeting, so they're kind of doing double duty. And of course, thank our panelists, Peter and David from the Light Department, Chris from Sunbug, and Tom, who's our new solar coach from Sustainable Wakefield. Thank you very much for coming.